Okay, and we're back. Now we are ready for the last talk of this morning before lunch. And this time I invite you to the stage Christoph Rumpel. Hi, Christoph.
Hello,
welcome.
Hello, Alessandro. How are you doing?
Hi. Well, thank you. Interesting talks up until now. Let's get ready for yours now. For those who don't know Christoph, he's a web developer from Vienna. And in the last 8 years, he's doing backend as a freelancer in PHP and Laravel basically daily. And he's also an author of an ebook about chatbots in PHP, author of Laravel Core Adventures, and of the Mastering PHPStorm video course, which is pretty interesting. I've seen small bits of that on Twitter floating around.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope you'll be more than ready to explain a little bit more to us about Xdebug and PHPStorm, right?
Yeah, I'm ready. I hope the audience is too. So from my point, we can get started.
Okay, so let's share the screen and let's get started. Up to you.
All right, perfect. So I don't see you anymore. I hope you can see now my keynote presentation. That's where we're going to start. And yeah, hello, everybody. Wherever and whenever you currently are. Hello, phpday. Thank you for having me. It has been a great conference so far, great talks already. So thanks to everyone and also the organizers and also for having me. It's very nice to be here today. So as you've already heard, my name is Christoph Rumpel. I'm a web developer from a small little star here in Austria, right about here. You can see it. I come from Vienna. I've been working now with PHP for, I think, around 10 years. I still mostly do PHP, a lot of Laravel. I'm a freelancer, I'm a consultant. I've written an ebook. I do my own video courses, so my own products. So I'm a little one-man show. I do everything myself. And yeah, if you want to know anything more about me, want to reach out to me, I'm quite active on Twitter. My Twitter handle is Christoph Rumpel, just my name. Also, if you have some feedback or question, just get in touch with me. And I also have a blog at christoph-rumpel.com where I'll blog a lot about the things that I do, and you will also find all my other talks, slides, videos, etc. But let's get right into my talk today, and it's called Debugging with PHPStorm and Xdebug. So I think we can all agree debugging is an important skill of us developers. We need it every day. We have bugs every day. We need to solve them. So we all do some kind of debugging every day, I'm pretty sure. So that's why I think it's important to talk about it. And today I want to talk about it in combination with Xdebug and PHPStorm. So I think that's a wonderful combination. And I want to take you from the first step, installing Xdebug, setting it up, connecting it to PHPStorm, and then hopefully we can also solve some bugs together. And all of this I want to do in the next 30 minutes to give you a nice starting point if you haven't used Xdebug or haven't used it in combination with PHPStorm. So that's the plan for today. We're going to do some live debugging. So it will be fun for sure, especially for you if something goes wrong on my side, but let's hope not. Generally speaking, debugging, I see two approaches, or I've done myself mostly two different approaches. The first one is dump and die. Very easy. You're going to start with this one. If you want to know some specific data, just dump it out, exit the script, and then you will see the content, and hopefully it will help you for debugging your problem. So it's very easy. You can start right away. You don't need any tools. And then besides that, we also have step debugging. And this is now a little bit more complex. We have more features, and that's what we want to talk about today. Sorry, I already have some issues with my voice. I think enough of the slides. Let's dive right into our demo application for today. So this is, by the way, my joined in talk where you can hopefully feedback me later. But what I wanted to show you is this little page here. Let's make this a little bit smaller. So this is our demo application. It's a very small application where we see some of my blog articles. And you see 5 of them here, but we have one issue because this last one, you should not see this because it should be hidden. And the goal for today is to check what went wrong here. And let's also check out the code for this application. Again, it's very simple. We have here a controller for the main route. Here I'm grabbing all my posts and then I'm sending this to the view. So quite simple. And all for my blog articles I have here some markdown files. And this is the one which we are especially interested in because here we have set hidden true. So in my markdown files, I have some metadata, which I can access later and deal with it. And here we have set this to true, so we should not see it, but we still see it. So before using Xdebug, what I mostly have done is dump and die debugging. So probably I would have just dumped out here the post, for example, and then go to my browser, refresh, see, okay, what do I get here? It's a collection with some, let's make this bigger, with some post objects and some info in there. But of course, this is not what we want to do today. So let's get rid of this. Today we want to talk about Xdebug. So what is Xdebug? Xdebug is a PHP extension. It's created by Derek Rethens. He spoke yesterday about new features in PHP 8.1. And it's an amazing debugger, but it's even more, it's a profiler. It allows you to trace your application. So lots of things you can do, but we are today mostly interested in the debugging part. So how can you check if you have it already installed? The easiest way is by checking the version of PHP. I have version 8.02. Let's make this a little bit bigger. This little S here bugs me. Now it's better. So, and you can see here the enable extensions, which we only have current send up cache. Okay, so we need Xdebug. How do we install it? If we go here on the main side to the install instructions, you can see here that there are a lot of instructions for all the different operating systems. I'm on a Mac, and the main thing we're looking is at this command to install it with package. But since I'm on a new MacBook, I need some specific commands in front of that. So for me, this looks like this. And the main thing here is still the package install Xdebug, and I haven't installed it so that we can do this now together. I hope the internet connection is good and nothing goes wrong, but I wanted to give you this real life experience today. And it's also a little bit exciting every time if everything is working out, if we see any errors. So it says build process completed successfully. This looks good. And then it also says extension Xdebug enabled in the php.ini file. So this means if we check again our PHP version, we also see now that Xdebug, the latest version 3 was now installed, which is good. So not too difficult so far, but still we have one issue because it's recommended that you load Xdebug always after the send up cache because it could lead to some issues. And of course, we don't want that. And the reason why it is already enabled Xdebug is because inside my main ini file, this one here, you can see that this first line here was added to enable the Xdebug extension. So let's get rid of this. You can see we don't see Xdebug anymore. And now what I have already in place is a different ini file just for my Xdebug settings. And since it starts with an X, it's been loaded after the send up cache. So let's check this out here. Not that fast in Vim, but I can make my way around here to enable the settings. Just let's make sure that everything is working. Now Xdebug is now being loaded after send up cache. That's good. So back to our settings here. So these are the main setup, the config for Xdebug, which I have set on my system. The first line here, we are enabling the extension. very straightforward. And then with Xdebug version 3, we have now those called modes. And with modes, we can define what of the features of Xdebug we want to use. Because as I said, it's good for debugging, for development, for tracing, for profiling, for a lot of things, and we don't need all of them. And in order to not make your applications too slow, it's good to just define what you need. And we are currently only interested in debugging. Then what's next? The client host, I'm using the local host on my machine. This could be different depending on your local environment. Then very important is the port. So when we use Xdebug, we have a debugger engine which communicates with your IDE. In our case, that's PHPStorm. And it's communicating over this specific port. So we need to make sure then in PHPStorm that this is set to. And last here, we are just defining a log file for any kind of error or info messages. But basically, that's already it. So also not too much to set here on this side. Okay, so we have installed Xdebug. We have made sure that it's loaded after send up cache, and we have defined some configurations, some settings. So what's next? So we need to tell our web server somehow that if we run this page here, that we want to start a new debugging session. And there are two ways we can do this. First, we can define some settings in our ini file so that it does it every time. So with every request, it starts a debugging session. But what I prefer is this here, which is a little extension. What's the name? It's called Xdebug Helper. And here with screen, I have debug enable. And now this means with every request, a little information is being sent to the web server. Let me show this real quick to you. So if I refresh the page, and when we go down here to the request header, yeah, here you can see now Xdebug session is set to PHPStorm. And this will tell our web server so that we want to start a new debugging session. So that's cool because now I can just disable it if I don't want to debug anything. And that's what I mostly prefer. Okay, so Xdebug is installed. We are telling the web server now with every request that we want to start a debugging session. So next we have to deal with PHPStorm, my IDE of choice, and I really love working with PHPStorm. I have to admit this. So here in the settings under PHP, we have now some debugging settings. There's also some information about how to use Xdebug, for example, or the send debugger, which is another debugger. And very important here under Xdebug is that we have set the correct port. So we have set 9003, and this is already enabled here. And for all those other settings, I don't do anything. So I'm just clicking OK here, and we are almost done. So the last thing we need to do is we need to tell PHPStorm that it should listen for incoming debugging connection. And we can do this under the Run menu. Here, start listening for PHP debug connection. So now it's listening for the specific port which we have defined. If I go again here, now you can see I can stop it here again, but now we want to listen for our debugging connection, of course. So this means everything should be set up now. And the best way to test this is by setting our first breakpoint. So in PHPStorm, I can just click here on the side and it adds a new breakpoint. And with a little bit of luck, we can refresh this here. And we don't see anything. Let me check what have I done wrong here. Sometimes with PHPStorm, it opens up a model which I don't see right away. Let me just get through all my windows here. No, let me just exit real quick my full screen mode to see if it is somewhere here. Okay. That's every time the issue. If you're doing something live, if something goes wrong, you have to deal with it. So I'm now debugging my own talk somehow. So let's go through it together. We have set enable the extension. That's good. We have set a breakpoint. We are listening for the connection, and we also have debug enabled here. Yeah, so let's give this another try. Stop listening. I'm starting to listen again. Set a breakpoint here. Let's refresh the page. Okay, it's still not working. So one thing which I think could be the issue here is that we need to set here a server which normally gets set automatically. So let's try this again. Stop listening now, just to make sure. Starting this again, setting a breakpoint. Now, please, finger crossed. Oh, come on, still nothing. That's unfortunate. So maybe Derek is watching and he has an idea. Let me check again. What could be the issue? This is enabled. Let me check again. The port is correct. We don't have a server set, so normally this gets set automatically. So let's try to just add an empty one. I think this could do the trick. Again, please cross your fingers. We're starting listening again. Fresh. Oh no, that's not good. That's not good. So what else can I do? So that's when you start thinking about your debugging options. So what I sure can do is restart PHPStorm. So let's try this. So I'm a little bit guessing here because, of course, it was working the 2 times I prepared the talk today. So, but that's always the thing with live stuff. So let's reopen this again. And let's set another breakpoint here. Let's check. We are currently listening. Let's try to start again. And still not. Oh, come on. You're kidding me. What's wrong with you? Just exit here my full screen, because I know sometimes it opens up a little model from PHPStorm, which I don't see when I have my presentation mode on. But it seems this is not the case. What else can I do? Let me check. So in the backup, I still have a video with the talk pre-recorded. So if nothing works out, we can still go back to this one, and I might talk over the video, or it even has sound, but I still want to get this working. So I'm sure we can make this work somehow. So is there anything about here which...
Okay, let's try some help from the background. Sorry, Christoph.
Yeah.
Just here to relay a couple of suggestions that we get in the chat and from Derek. One is to check the log from Xdebug, which is inside TMP, /tmp/xdebug.log. I think it's a new feature from Xdebug 3, and it's empty, so it's not getting triggered. Another possible situation is that you may have a different INI for the SAPI that is serving the page. And I
don't think so that that's the case, because I've done this 2 times like this before. And
another suggestion from Derek was to trigger the break on first line in PHPStorm, but since the log is empty, I don't think it's working.
Yeah, I can give this a try. I'm just checking my settings here. I think they look okay.
And double check the extension on the browser to see if it's enabled.
Yeah, so this is what we can do. We can...
Derek suggests also to restart the web server.
Oh yeah, I can do this as well. Okay, let's just try real quick to enable the extension again. And setting the breakpoint, make sure we are listening.
Another comment says that this is pretty typical. So you're basically giving us a tutorial on how to debug these kind of issues when it happens to us.
Yeah, so it would be really fun if this was all planned and I'm just showing you how to debug situations like this.
But I can't deny that this happened to me at least a couple of times. So
yeah,
it's not so strange.
It's always the same if you do live talks. Those things can happen and will happen at some point. The question is, how good are you prepared to deal with them? So let's check again. We're stopping listening for this. I've refreshed the server. We're just making sure that this is being sent. I'm pretty sure it is. And
we can start listening now and try to see if it works.
Yeah, let's everybody, fingers crossed now. Maybe let's add a second breakpoint for live. Maybe this does the trick. No. Okay, so
another suggestion, you can write Xdebug _info in somewhere if you can trigger it, even in your controller, to see if it says anything about it's working or okay, that one. It's basically the same as PHP info, but I don't think the return is needed, but
okay, I think that's not needed.
Oh, it says it's not defined, so it's not loaded. No, it's problem of namespace. Well, if it's not defined, it's not loaded. So Xdebug is not active right now.
Okay, so this means Xdebug is not being loaded. Does this mean this?
You can double check, put in the backslash in for the namespace at the head of the function call. So you're forcing it to look at the main namespace and not your. But yeah, it's not working. So it's not loaded right now.
Yeah. Okay, so yeah, that's a little bit unfortunate, but since we're already running a little bit out of time, I think I might start the video and try to talk over the video.
As you prefer. The last suggestion that I see from the chat is that you can check your INI and see if maybe you can check if you have a separate. We can get a bit over time. Don't worry, we have the lunch break after that. So maybe we can do a last test to see.
Yeah, so it is being loaded. We have set the same settings which I've been using.
Well, since it's not loaded, maybe it's not reading from this folder. The INI in this folder is not loaded. Maybe that's the issue.
If it wasn't reading this, I wouldn't see it in the PHP version.
From the CLI. Well, it can be that it has two different INI settings. So it's loaded here and it's not loaded in the web server SAPI. So
yeah, could be something like this, but I also never had any other INIs that I used for this, so that's why this sounds a little bit strange to me. Why this has changed.
PHP info we can try. That's another suggestion from the backside from Derek, because we can see which INI are getting loaded and which folder are getting read to load them.
So we have
this is the cookie. I don't see any other Xdebug reference. Try to see INI to check if.
Okay, I see. It's loading. Oh, okay.
Oh, it's 7.4. It's not 8.
Yeah, I know what it is. Okay, I think we
a different FPM altogether.
It is an issue which I've seen before that of using on the web server. Somehow it switches to a different version, and in the client I see that it's PHP 8, but it uses a different one for the web server. So I think we could fix it now with this. Because now I'm forcing my web server to restart with PHP 8. It's
here's the
already looks much better because that's the dialog we were looking for.
I can leave it to it then.
Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you everybody for helping out here. Yeah, this saved my ass somehow. Thank you guys. So I hope we're now ready to keep going with this talk. Let's enter the full screen here again. And let's do this as well. Now we have this already. So yeah, we now have set it up correctly after little issues we had, but now we are stopping here. You can see that the request is still going. So this means the request is not finished because we have set our breakpoint and we have stopped here. So Let me get rid of this again, and let's just start with this one again. So this means we are now in a debugging state for our application. We have here on the left some information about the files which already have been used, and here on the right we have some variables of the current state of our application. So we have the globals, we have our environment files, we have the cookie, again with our Xdebug session key, and we also have access to the current home controller instance. So this means this is now a good way and a good point to start debugging our application. So like before, the first thing that I'm interested here is what we get back from posts. And since we have set the breakpoint here at this line of code was not executed yet. So in order to know what posts is, what I mostly do is maybe create another breakpoint and then assume the program to check there, to stop here. Or what you can also do is step over. And this will now trigger the next line of executable PHP code, which is this one here. So let's step over, and here we are. And now we can see in the variables that we also have access to the posts. And here I can check, okay, this is a collection instance with 5 items. These are our 5 blog posts. And the last one is, which I'm interested in, because it's about how I DDoSed my own server, which happened indeed. So this is not made up. And here we can see that hidden is false. And this is definitely incorrect because this is the one we want to hide. And let me show you again, because in my markdown file here for this post, I've set hidden to true. So this means somewhere in between where we get those posts, we have some kind of issue. So let's get to this class here and to this all method where we get all the posts. So first we are getting all the files. I think it's a good idea to add another breakpoint here. And yeah, so what do we get with those files? Again, at this point, this line was not run. So I'm stepping over here. And now I see the files. It's an array with all of my markdown files, and it's just the name of the file. Okay, nothing fancy here. Then we are making a new collection. We are looping over this collection, and now I'm creating new post objects, which I will later use in my view file. And here I'm going to filter out the ones which are hidden. And yeah, somewhere here, there must be an issue because the file is not being filtered out. So we still see it on the web page. So what I'm next interested in would be what we get back here as the post matter for our specific blog post. So I'm setting a new breakpoint, resume the program, I get in here. And since we are now inside the map method, which is a kind of loop, we now see the post matter for the first article. But we are not interested in the first one. We are interested in the next one. So we are in the last one. So we can resume, and we get in here again because of the breakpoint for every article. And I move on until we have now this last one here. And here I'm interested in what information we get back. And this is stored in the matter array. And here we can see that hidden is true. And that's also what we have set in our markdown file. So this means at this point, everything is still working correctly. So the error must be somewhere where we create our post object. So let's remove this breakpoint. Let's get into this class here. And let's see what we're doing here. And here we are setting the hidden property. And here we can already see the issue. We're looking for the visibility key, but actually it's called hidden. So this means we should easily fix this now with hidden. Of course, this is a very simple bug we were dealing here, and with some tests we wouldn't have run into this situation. But I thought it's a good idea to start very easy and just show you more about the process of how we can debug and how to do this with the tools that we have. So in order to test this now, what I want to do is I want to set now a new breakpoint here, and this collect method. Let's refresh this again. And now I'm interested in what we get back here from this map method. And since these are chained methods, you can't just step over because this would be called in just one call. But what we can do is, since we are breaking here this point, I can select this and can say I want to evaluate this expression. And now let's get copy in here in the evaluate window. And if I evaluate it, I do get back now what I have selected here, which is pretty cool because now I just select what I'm interested in and see the result here. So we are interested mostly in this last one. And here we can see that now hidden is true, which was false before. So this means it looks good, but to make it sure, what the filter method now does is we can do the same, evaluate the expression, and now we can immediately see that we only get 4 items back. So this means our DDoS article is not in here anymore, which is what we actually wanted. So this also means if I refresh now my page, we should see only 4 articles, and we do. So we've successfully debugged our first little issue here with Xdebug and PHPStorm. So the main advantages, I hope you have already seen, is that we didn't have to change any line of code. So with a dump and die approach, you often have to change your code in order to dump something out. And sometimes you forget that those lines are in there, and then maybe you post it to a repository, and these are all issues which you don't want. So it's very cool when you can debug without changing your code at all. Then you've also seen that we are much more flexible because we can set multiple breakpoints. We can move from one breakpoint to another one. We can evaluate expression, and we always have a nice preview inside our editor, which is also a little bit nicer than having this in the browser where it's often difficult to click through the output, which you will see. And we have much more power because there are so much features which I don't have time for to show you, but there are 2 more things that I want to show you a little bit more in detail. So live demo number 2. I hope I don't have to set anything up in this demo, but since it's already working, we should be fine. So first, what I wanted to show you, we've been calling Xdebug and this kind of debugging step debugging. And you have seen that we can move from one step to another, and that's for sure one of the reasons why it's called like this, but this is much more powerful. So inside the index file of this level application, so that's the main entry point for every request to this application. And this is the first line of code being run here. So if I set a breakpoint here, it should stop here again. And what we can now do is we can check every step this request is taken from the first entry to your request till it sends a response back. So the next thing here would be checking if the maintenance mode is enabled. So let's step over, we step in here. Here we have a condition. If we would get into the condition, we could do it with step over, but since we don't have the maintenance mode on, we just move on from here to the next step. And then again to the next one. And so we can see every time what is the framework doing. So here we're creating a new application instance, which serves as the service container level. And next we are creating a kernel. And if we're interested in really every step of what is happening, we can use this step into now. This also gets into this make method, for example. And if we do this, you can see there are a lot of steps happening behind this make method. And if you're really interested in how a framework works, how a specific application works, or if you're interested in debugging an issue, having this kind of step debugging is really a game changer because you can go step by step and see every line of code which is being executed and why. And this, of course, helps you so much while debugging. So next, let's get back to our controller. Here. So I also wanted to talk a little bit more about breakpoints because there's a lot you can do. So first you've seen that I can just add and delete it. And of course, there is also a shortcut, if I remember it correctly, and to do the same. I always recommend using shortcuts in PHPStorm because you will be so much faster. And if you have a breakpoint enabled, you can right-click it and get to the seconds. to the settings, you can then enable it, disable it. You can define if you want to stop at this breakpoint or not. You can set a condition, which I will show you just in a minute. And we also have some more options. If we click here, we get to the breakpoints dialog. And of course, there is also a shortcut. Yes, that's the correct one. And here we have an overview of all the shortcuts we have set. We can delete them, we can edit them. And what we also can do is create new ones. And this is pretty cool because here I can set a breakpoint connected to a specific method. So for example, we've been using the post collector class, and in there we have this all method. So I can set now a breakpoint which gets hit every time this method is being run. And as you can see, we also have auto completion here, which is just amazing PHPStorm all the way. And every time this method is being run, it breaks there. And similar to that, you can also set this for exceptions. So if you don't want an exception to being catched, you can set this breakpoint here, and then you can debug specific exceptions and why they've been thrown and when and how and all these things. So that's what makes breakpoints that important and gives you so much flexibility in how to debug. With dump and die, of course, you are very limited. One little trick I also want to show you. If you have a breakpoint enable, you can run the context action command, which is Alt-Enter with PHPStorm. By the way, every time I use a shortcut, you see it at the bottom, this little presentation assistant showing you the name of the shortcut and the key combination. But the key combination is the one that I use myself. So this might change, but the name will be the same. And if I use the context action for a line where I have a breakpoint, I can easily disable it or edit it or just remove it. And again, you're much faster if you use those combinations. And I also talked about the conditions. So let's think of a good example. So especially in loops, this is very powerful. So before Xdebug, what I would do if I'm interested in specific data inside a loop, because mostly you're only interested for one specific case or one specific item in the loop. What I would have done is something like through this meta method, I would see if a file is hidden or not. So if this is true, I want to output some data. I'm going to refresh this. You can see this is now the output of this article where hidden is set to true. This works, but of course we want to do this differently since we are using Xdebug and PHPStorm. So I'm setting here a breakpoint and I'm setting now a condition. And the condition is the same, post matter method, and we're looking for the hidden field. And if it is true, we want to trigger this breakpoint. So we've set this. Now you can see with this little question mark here that we have this condition set. And now if we run it, we get back here and we are directly at this article and we don't loop through the others before until we get here. So our condition matched here successfully, which is just so nice while debugging because you don't have to go over all those items one by one. And one more thing I want to show you are watches. I'm not sure about the time. I hope it's still okay to do some more minutes. I hope you're not too hungry, but I promise I will be finished here soon, but this is really amazing. So if I refresh again at this point here. So we have already here now this post object. And let's say we're mostly interested in the title here. So what I can do is I can right click here and add this to my watch list. So now this post title here is outside of the post. And for every iteration of the loop, it shows me the name of the current blog article. And how cool is this? So every time you don't have to click inside to check something, because if you're only interested in the title or a category or an ID or something, you can just show it here right away. And besides this, what you can also do are inline watches. So that's also interesting. Let me show you this. So if I click here inside this method here, I can add an inline watch. And by default, it just takes the expression from inside the parentheses. But I can click this here and edit this. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to say I'm interested in the title of the post. And voila, now we have the title of the post here right inside our editor next to the line where we want to check something. And again, if we loop through, we go to those other blog posts. So yeah, if you're using Xdebug or want to try it out, make sure to check out those watches and all those features for the breakpoints, because yeah, there's so much what you can do and it helps you for every specific debugging case that you have. Whew. So I was going now a little bit faster than practice, but yeah, here we are. Again, the same advantages, no code changes. We are so flexible and we have so much power of the combination of Xdebug and PHPStorm. It's just so good to use this while debugging. Yeah, as you've seen, sometimes setting up is not that difficult. As sometimes it can be difficult, so you can run into some issues. And yeah, there are a lot of moving parts involved, like local development, Xdebug, PHPStorm, and yeah, that's okay. But once you have set it up, you can work very smoothly and use it for all of your projects very easily, just by checking in the browser and PHPStorm to run for those connections. Whew. If you're more interested in this, of course, check out the website of Xdebug. Then there's an ultimate guide on PHPStorm itself, how to use it with PHPStorm. Then Derek has also created a video how to set it up with Docker and PHPStorm in just 5 minutes. And there's also a nice Learn Xdebug resources site, with lots of tutorials and information that helps you to set it up correctly. But I hope with my talk, I could give you a little introduction from the process of setting everything up, installing it, making it work from the browser and PHPStorm, and making this all work so that you get a debugging setup which just works and then you can use all the time. And yes, there we made it in a little bit more than 30 minutes, but we made it. I think that's the most important part. Thank you for listening to this talk. I really would appreciate if you share some feedback, like mentioned also in the comments, on joined in for this talk. Let me know what you liked, what you didn't like about it. I always appreciate this. And if you're more interested in things that I do, as mentioned, I have a course about the core of Laravel called Laravel Core Adventures, where I teach how Laravel works under the hood. So everything from the service container, request lifecycle, facades, notification, and so on. I all teach this in this course. A little bit more related to the talk today is my latest video course called Mastering PHPStorm. So as mentioned, I'm working now with PHPStorm for many years, and I've really put a lot of effort into knowing PHPStorm and all those little tips and tricks, which will get you faster and more efficient while using it. Also make it look good, because if you install it from the first time, it looks quite ugly. So I have now this course where I teach all this from refactoring, testing, using it for Git, and also a lot about debugging as well. So if you're interested in this course, check out masteringphpstorm.com. And I'm also giving away today 10 times 15% discounts with the discount code MP-loves-phpday. Okay, that was it from my side. Thank you everybody for listening. Sorry for the troubles in between, but that happens when you do things live. Thank you everybody.
So thank you. It was a great talk, and I can assure you that the live debugging was fun to do, and I encountered multiple comments about that. It was a teaching moment because it happened to all of us, and that's another way to learn how to get out of this situation. You got a lot of questions. If you want to, we can try to handle them. And the first one from Alexander is it possible to debug with Xdebug in production, and it is a good idea?
Yeah, so I think I also talked with Derek about this a little bit. I have never done it in production. I think Derek said once that now with version 3, it is possible because it doesn't slow your application that much down. But I think in general, if it's, I wouldn't want to do this. So if it's the last case, maybe I would do it. But yeah, I would try to fix it somewhere else because yeah, I don't want to mess things up on the production side.
Okay, then a small question, but it's a bit unrelated. They want to know the name of your font and PHPStorm. They liked it.
Thanks. I can show. The font is called Operator Mono. It's a paid font. It costs, I think, about $100. So it's not that cheap, but I also like it very much, and that's why I bought it some years ago. And the theme, which I was using in PHPStorm, is a custom theme that I've built myself, which I sell together with my Mastering PHPStorm course.
Okay. Then back to the topic, how to debug segfaults. I don't know if that's feasible with Xdebug.
I'm sorry, can you repeat this?
How to debug segfaults. So when basically PHP does a core dump and fails miserably, not a fatal error. I think that those kind of errors are due to extension normally and not to code directly.
Okay, so in the last time I've never run into such a situation. So I think most failures I see are handled already differently. So I don't know if it helps here. So I guess Derek is here the better person to ask for. So maybe he has some more info about this, but I haven't dealt with the situation lately, so I can't help out here.
Next question, maybe that was asked before you showed it, because it was asking if you can have conditional breakpoints, but you show that in the talk. So great tip.
That's really helpful.
And also the inline one, I didn't know about that. That was another nice one. Then how to deal with performance issues with Xdebug. I don't know if it's still debugging or if you use that for performance.
Yeah, so I think for performance, I don't know too much about the other things that Xdebug tools like profiling and tracing, but I think, Derek, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think profiling is more about the performance side of PHP application. I'm not using this, so I can't tell how good Xdebug is with helping with those performance issues. So that's not what I mainly deal with.
Yeah, I read something about it, about the profiling. I think you get the profile that you can read with cache grind to see, to find memory leaks and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think there's also some nice talks by Derek about this. Maybe we can link them as well, because I think I've seen it already also by him.
Yeah, I thought even something like that. Me too. Okay, one last question. Do you have to redefine the default shortcut for step over, step into for the fast debugging to not mess up with FN keys? I don't know about, maybe it's depending on the operating system.
The question was about the shortcuts for step over and step into and how to set them?
Yeah, I think it's F8, something like that by default.
By default, it's something like this. Yeah, it's interesting. I still mostly use the buttons because mostly I use the shortcuts, but for those things, I've never set myself the shortcuts. I maybe need to give this a try and see if this feels right, but mostly since I'm already in the dialog, and I also have to use my mouse for checking variables and things. I think that's why I use the mouse probably for this as well. But I'm pretty sure in PHPStorm you can mostly set shortcuts for everything. So you just have to search for it and then you can define it. And then it depends on your operating system if there are maybe conflicts or not. So I think that's different for a lot of operating systems.
Yeah, for example, I use it under Linux, and F8 is not an issue. It depends only maybe on if you use a laptop and you have to do Fn plus F8 to avoid, but that depends on your default. For example, I normally disable the Fn keys, so I do the opposite. I do Fn plus F8 for the other function. But for me, I think it's disabled screen, so I don't use it so much. Okay, last one is how to support Xdebug development. I think Derek has something to do about that.
Yeah, I think best way is to check out the website. I think there should be some information about this there as well. And if not, always reach out to Derek. He does some amazing work, and he's always thankful for people and helping it out in the development. And probably he's also taking some donations for, yeah, he spent a lot of time into this for a long time. So Xdebug is now here for many years now. And if you can help Derek, yeah, please do this.
Yeah, sure. In the meantime, Derek's answered part of your questions. So, well, the part that we couldn't handle, he said that for segfaults, you can use tracing and not step debugging, probably because you have to check for memory allocations. That's the common cause for that. The performance issues for Xdebug 3 itself are a lot less pronounced than in Xdebug 2. Yeah, you said that before. And it also put a link for how to do profiling with Xdebug. So I think we covered all the bases here.
Cool.
Okay,
Thanks,
so
Eric.
thank you, Christoph. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your demo.
Thank you very much for having me.
Thank you. And I think we can see everybody after lunch. Let me check our schedule. We will be starting at 2:30, so in nearly an hour and a half. So have a nice lunch, fill your stomach, and see you later.
Thank you.